The president is hopeful that a successful confirmation of Justice Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court will translate to a boost at the polls. The new justice officially taking the oath earlier today. Since her confirmation last night, there's been talk of how Barrett's appointment could impact the election, making some comparisons to the 2000 election. I took questions to an associate dean and professor of constitutional law.
There's two large concerns. The first is sort of voter suppression in the sense of voter intimidation on the day of the election. And the other one is some form of invalidation of ballots either before or after the election. There have been a couple efforts by the Republican Party to challenge ballots significantly in states such as North Carolina and Pennsylvania, where there is a surge in turnout by Democrats.
Okay, and how does Justice Barrett's confirmation potentially impact anything that might make it to the Supreme Court?
The most likely one, or the one that's being talked about at least currently, is a result of the Pennsylvania law, where they recently changed the number of days in which ballots could be counted until 3 days after the election, as long as they were postmarked and received before the election. That one already went to the U.S. Supreme Court. It was a 4-4 tie, with Chief Justice Roberts siding with what's considered the liberal 3 justices on the court. So my best guess is that one of the following 3 scenarios should happen. Number one, which we mentioned, was Justice Barrett will recuse herself. Much more likely is, though, that the U.S. Supreme Court will refuse to re-entertain, will refuse to reconsider this issue. They just considered it a week ago. And the only thing that's changed is you've added another justice to it. That makes the court look extremely partisan if the court was to accept this. And Chief Justice Roberts truly cares about the reputation for independence of this separate branch of government. And he's displayed that a number of times. So I think that he would persuade his fellow members of the court that we shouldn't be reconsidering this. And most importantly, the timing is way too tight. We just had this decision a week ago. So voters in Pennsylvania are only relying upon this. So to change that when voters are relying on that is very, very unlikely that the Supreme Court would do that, because they would know the impact of that ruling. It wouldn't be like in Florida and Bush v. Gore, to go back to your point there. It wouldn't be like Bush v. Gore, where they're saying, look, this has been all over the place. So one of the reasons we're ruling with finality now is so that we can move this forward.